So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another interview of the Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and today I'm joined by David Brenner, and he's in a band called Gridfailure, and also he hooks me up with a lot of the bands that I interview. So, so David, how are you today?
I'm great. You got me out of work a little bit early, so thanks a lot.
Well, it's my pleasure. You know, when sometimes when it's the end of the day, you know, sometimes you need to clock. It's 5 p.m. somewhere, so someone
Yeah,
has to go
yeah.
out and have a
By
good
the time we start work, it's already 5 p.m. in Europe, so yeah.
Yeah. So Gridfailure, it's pretty interesting because for people watching this, I was supposed to record this at night the day before, but I had Gridfailure. I had no electricity. So I messaged Dave like, hey, I have no electricity. I'm like, damn, that Gridfailure. So the EP is
I was
out.
sending you a message.
Yeah, the EP is out today, Friday the 17th, and it's called Shards in the Wire. So depending
Yep.
on where you listen to it, it's an EP, but if you stream it, it says it's an album, whatever. It's 7 songs, like 33 minutes in length. And yeah, this is pretty interesting because when I read the description of the band, it's like you're like described like a noisy industrial type of act. And yes, when I listen to this, you know, I listen to there's like noises and songs that I thought I was listening to someone like walking and leaves like being crunched. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm like, I have to ask Dave. So tell me a little about the history of Gridfailure.
It's it's started as a solo project, and it remains. Gridfailure is pretty much just me. A lot of records have all kinds of different collaborators on. I've had 2 or 3 people join me on a few songs, and I have records with a dozen or more people that play different things, and it's just a constantly evolving experiment, really. I started it in 2016, 2015, 2016, I guess. Yeah, when I was playing with Theologians, another like dark ambient experimental band, and it was my first. That was my first real venture into power electronics and industrial music and everything as far as creating any of this stuff. I'd always been in more like punk and hardcore metal sort of bands. So yeah, it just sort of became something that I wasn't sure what it was going to be to begin with. It never really had a clear direction, and I just carried it that way ever since. I've just kind of let it be like, instead of defining it as a certain, I'm a death metal band, I have to sound like this kind of thing. It's more like, I listen to so much music, I want to be able to infuse elements of all of that into it, but still have it be somehow completely demoralizing or terrifying, like, so you can incorporate classical music or hip hop beats or pretty much anything you want into it, and it still becomes like a horror score in the end.
No, yeah, it's there's a lot of things, and I know there's some vocals that seem buried. So I was guessing that was you, like doing some vocal effects on some of the tracks, right?
This record is 100% me. There's no collaborators on this. I did all the beats, bass, guitars, keyboards, synth, like everything. I have, so for every like few records I put out, I'm used to putting out 4 titles. I put out 6 titles one year. Some of it was like live shows and things like that. So this year, this is only the second record I put out. I did a collaboration with Interstatia earlier this year, and I had another record. It's completed and was sitting here to be released this fall, and that has 25 guests on it, I believe. It's the
Wow.
third record in my 6 Mass Extinction Skullduggery series. It's like a 5 album concept series I've been releasing over years, and this is my third one, and it's got like 25 people on it. But we're releasing this a cassette, and then the t-shirt, all the things that go with it through Nefarious Industries, and there's a box set, a cassette box set of the first three titles that we didn't have manufactured yet. So we just pushed it to 2024 to just get everything wrapped up. And I said, well, now I got to release something right away. So these songs were skeletons like a month and a half ago. They were just some structures, and I just kind of spent a few weeks and crushed it out myself. And yeah, got it to my buddy Dan at Black Matter Mastering. You talked to him for Thetan. He does a lot of my mastering and stuff now. So I just got it to him. I had the cover already finished for like a year for just an unknown a record TBA, you know. So yeah, I just kind of put this together in about 3 weeks from some skeletal points of a few of the songs. And yeah, I just wanted to get something out this fall. So
awesome, man. And
quick.
I saw the music videos, and I like, because the music, there's like a whole lot of like colors, and it looks like an old movie, like you're watching like a found footage type of videos.
Yeah, I do a lot of, like, everything I make is very seizure inducing, and it's like psychedelic, but not in the psychedelic you'd think of, like a Fish record or something like that, or like a light prog rock record or something. It's psychedelic, like, you've been forced to take your body weight in bad acid and like sent into the woods blindfolded with pitfalls, and it's but yeah, that's how I like everything to look, sort of like a cut up horror movie. You're totally right. That found footage, that Blair Witch, like sinister sort of vibe. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I used to hate that movie when it came out.
The Blair Witch.
Oh yes, I remember when it came out, everyone was saying like, "Oh, they saying that this is not a movie, it's real found footage." I'm like, "Come on, don't be idiots."
I lived down Philadelphia, and before the movie came out in the theaters or anything, they ran a campaign. They were down there on South Street handing out flyers about, "Have you seen our friends?" They were just these people handing out missing persons flyers. So that's how they were promoting the movie way before the movie was like actually announced or coming to theaters or anything. So they did really well with that whole, found footage. This is actually, what it is, until, it was out for a few days, I'm sure, and people caught on. But, I thought it was a pretty genius.
Oh no, it was smart, because a lot of people,
shut.
Yeah, a lot of people thought it was real. So the album or the EP artwork, I enjoyed it. It looks pretty cool. So I'm gonna share it. So this is out today, the 17 Shards of the Wire, Gridfailure. So did you do the cover too?
Yeah. I took I do a lot of photo merging. I do some hand-drawn art for the Six Mass Extinctions Called Duggery series. I did all hand-drawn artwork, but most of my stuff is photo collages. So this one, the main photo I took, I remember it was during the pandemic, and it was like a really nice cold spring day, and I was biking just up near here, and it was very desolate. It was one of those times when nobody was out. The few people you saw where everybody was masked up, and it was just totally bleak. But it was this nice spring day, and those trees were flowering, and I saw the power lines or the telephone lines going through, and I use a lot of grid stuff, telephone lines, power lines like in the background, and that kind of thing in the art. So yeah, that was just mainly that one photo, and then the towers in the background, the power lines are another photo I pulled out inversed, and then there's like a branch in there that you see coming up over. I like to put art over the logo in some places, so it's kind of coming out of the background or something. And that branch, that's a recurring thing. You'll see that in different, like, I have some small little tiny things like that I carry through in different album covers, throughout it, just kind of little Easter eggs or something like that for some kind of continuity. So, but yeah, I think
I like the use of the colors, the purple with the green, and the like more like white, it really catches your attention. It's a cool album artwork, and you're pretty.
I had it named before this idea for this record came together. It was just there. I'll just name things something random, because I have like probably 20 or 30 album covers made for records that aren't made yet, and sometimes that helps me dictate what the record's going to be. Like, oh, this looks like this. Let me make a record that sounds like, whatever, and it kind of directs that. But this one, I think it was just in a folder called like Easter egg looking motherfucker or something like that. You know what I mean? I thought it was very like pastel and Easter bunny, something like very springtime about it. And then so yeah, I just decided, why not make a really horrifying sounding record and release it in the fall when everything's dying. So
Yeah, I know, and it has. I thought the one that you did for the video there was an Aaron. That one, Aaron, because I think I remember the name of someone like called Aaron, something that you. So there was that one. What's that one about? Like the album titles for this is it's like more more like noise and music put together.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned earlier about rustling in the leaves and everything, and I was during the Panic Azimuth song. That's exactly what that was. That was me walking. There's a train line that runs right past us, like garbage and freight and whatever else. And I'm always out there, shooting videos and trespassing and whatever. And that was just me. I think at night, just crunching through the brush back there. And it was supposed to give you a sense of being lost or whatever. So I just remember you saying that. That's exactly what that was. I always have rain, thunder, fire, wind. I use a lot of like field recordings and found sound stuff like that. So, but there never was an Aaron. It's from the movie Primal Fear. It was like Ed Norton's first movie.
Yeah, that's the line that he uses.
Yeah, that's it. So anybody who's never seen the movie and plans on it, fast forward for a minute of this interview. So
it's a pretty old movie, but yeah, we don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, well, when he drops that at you come to this realization you've been following something else the whole way through the entire movie. So this song isn't necessarily based on Primal Fear. It's just that apex, that finale of the movie, and kind of it's written about deceit, being lied to, mistrust, sociopathic behavior. It's not really based on that movie at all, but it, in the sense of how that plays into the movie, again, without trying to give away a whole lot. It's, I mean, I guess if you read the title, I just blew the movie anyway. So
yeah. So were you ever like doing field recording and you get like some cool sounds and all of a sudden something comes up like a car or some music that fucks it up?
Daily. The train I was just talking about, that I do find a lot of inspiration, not really inspiration, but when you're standing like by a train. You interviewed my buddy Matt Gallahan.
Oh yeah.
He comes out here and records a lot. And the one video for Bronx Motor Inn, I recorded that whole record for him out here. And we were filming the video down there, like right by the train at night, and it's surging by you at like 60 miles an hour, and it's like 82 tons of moving steel, and it's terrifying at night. You know what I mean? It's pitch black, and we were filming him playing trumpet like right against it, and you're getting hit by sticks and everything else. So that train is fun for things like that, but it ruins a ton of recordings and everything else. Lawnmowers. Yeah, a plane, a car, the neighbor's dog, anything. So a lot of the stuff, I'm actually going for something specific, like a rushing brook or something like that. I'm gonna record that out, like obviously further away from people or anything. But I really need a clear recording of that. But some things just happen by accident too. I'll just be like, I film in storms and things like that, so I'll just be filming with my camcorder in the rain or something, and then be like, wow, the thunder sounds great on this, and I'll pull it off the audio from the video. And a lot of these elements feed each other. So some things have been fully inspired by a certain field recording, a certain sound that picks up a tone that I wasn't really planning on, or just 20 minutes of birds migrating, or I just get inspired by. This is more like this deranged art class than a band. I'm never like, okay, I'm going to write this record with this many songs, and I'm going to have this kind of thing going on. It's like I'll be working on multiple records at once. So I might have one outdoor, like a hike, and film and record a bunch of random samples, and then come back and throw half of it away. And the things that I like, I'll mix around to different records and whatever. And once I have a certain amount of material amassed for one thing and one sort of vibe or whatever, then I go, hey, let's finish this and just knock it out. Cut it loose and then work on the next thing again. So I'm always working on multiple records or multiple covers or multiple videos, or it's like a constant process. So
yeah, you don't rest. There was a YouTuber that I used to watch, but I don't think he does videos anymore. He was called Free to Be Where I Be, and he used to record album reviews walking,
Yeah.
walking like hiking, and I was thinking to myself, that looks like a fun idea, but that looks fucking hard as hell. I'm like,
Yeah.
And because I had to be walking and remembering what I have to say, I'm like, it's too much.
I think if you know what you're talking about, you're actually listening to it, or you have, the mindset of what you already want to say, that part's not too bad. But if you're looking at the camera, you're not looking at the rattlesnake, or, you're going to roll an ankle on that rock, or,
Yeah,
whatever.
it sounded like he looked like he was walking and like talking, but not like looking directly at the camera. But it was unique because
Yeah.
I think I've seen someone that does like running, like short videos, but the way he did it, he did like a hike, and he talked like 10 minutes about an album, and he went into all the songs. I'm like, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, you can't be listening to it 5 minutes before your walk. You got to have your notes already pretty much in your head for something like that.
Oh, but yeah, I haven't seen him do a video in a while, but I still think like I'm like, I'd rather be sitting down.
Well, everybody has their thing, and yeah, you wouldn't be the chill guy on the couch if you were out mowing the lawn.
No, walking, plus there's noises, and it can rain, and you imagine you have like a great, like something great, and suddenly someone talks to you and screws it up. Like, no.
You drop your phone in the sewer while you're live
Oh,
streaming.
you drop, yeah,
looking up in the break.
oh yeah. It's not an ideal thing. So yeah, the album EP, whatever, it's pretty interesting sounding. It sounds like the music that you do could be used like in a horror movie, like something like it could in the background of horror movies, because I know it's just you, so this is not, obviously it's not something that you can go and tour feasibly. So it's more of like a project that you put out albums, and both, or would you get musicians and do this live someday?
Grid Failure does play live, but it's an odd thing. It's just like everything else, where some like I said, some records have a few people, some people have 1,000 people, or 20 people or whatever, and some are all myself. So shows have been like that as well. And
Yeah.
all the Grid Failure shows we've ever played have never been actually performing any recorded Grid Failure material. There's such an improvisational method to so much of this, and I don't have, it's not, a few of us getting together every Tuesday and Thursday for 3 hours hammering out and tightening up the set like most bands do. It's mostly just created with people sending me things, or me just creating everything here or whatever. So when Grid Failure plays live, we actually do fully improvised shows. We don't have anything planned out ahead of time. It'll usually be my buddy Rich, he's in a bunch of New York bands, Rich Moeller, or Greg from Nefarious Industries. One of those guys playing drums. A lot of times Ben from Megalophobe playing his accordion with we cracked that open. He went through the whole process of like cracking his accordion open and plugging in, so he plays through effects and everything else. We always have it might be 3 people on stage and there's like 4 or 5 pedal boards, you know what I mean? It's just and then I make all those videos and the visuals and everything, so we just turn out as many lights as the club will allow and shoot my projections up there, and it's just dark and disorienting, and we just improv, and it's this heavy, dark, rhythmic, noisy, chaotic thing. If you go to my YouTube, there's a lot of a bunch of different shows up there over the years.
Yeah, I subscribe to the Gridfailure, but I watch the music videos for the ones you have for DCP. So if people that will go to a show, they don't know, we don't know what the hell they're gonna play.
Yeah, if we don't know what we're gonna play, how can anybody else? You know what I mean?
So you may start doing like an Air Supply cover, and people would be like, "What?"
I'd really want to get together with the guys and practice for that, though. I wouldn't want to throw that together on stage.
Yeah, you can do like
it's been last minute where I met the one guy, this other guy, one of Greg's friends. I met him an hour before we were playing at St. Vitus in Brooklyn, and they were supposed to do a 2-drummer thing, and they couldn't get it together in time. So Greg just showed up with this guy I had never met, and I was like, all right, let's just figure something out. And I set up a little synth, and he picked up a mic, and we just kind of did this 2 vocalists and a drummer in the dark thing. And we just figured it out, So an hour before.
That to me would be very stressful. But it's approach. Like for example, for me, when I do album reviews and stuff, there's some YouTubers that do like they work on scripts for like 2 days or something. I don't do fucking scripts.
No, yours is always a good conversation. It's you always just
like,
talk to people.
Obviously, I listen to an album and I know what I'm going to say, but I like it to be like a conversation. Like I'm talking about this album. I don't want people to think, oh, he's reading out of something. No, I'm never reading anything.
No, I've seen so many of your interviews that I know it's more of, you might have a few points that you try to hit everybody on, but that's like the standard what any reviewer is going to have to hit, whether it's on paper or video or anything. So it's, but yeah, yours is always just a conversation, and you can tell. I'm not going to try to judge your musical array, because you seem to be very diverse in what you listen to, but you also seem to step outside of your maybe standard comfort listening zone on a lot of this stuff because it interests you. Like if it's something new that you're hearing because you're hearing these artists, instead of just like, oh, I don't know enough about that, let me just go review more death metal bands. It's like you seem to take an experiment, like hey, let's just go talk to these guys and see what it is.
Yeah, I talk to I listen to different stuff. I can listen to like the harshest thing, and then I can listen to a pop indie band. And so yeah, I don't care as long as it's good. I've different things. Like that's why I named the channel The Shield Dude on a Couch and not The Shield Dude Does Metal, because I listen to if I want to talk about like a ska band, I'll talk about a ska band. If I want to talk electronic music or
there's too much music out there. When you're younger, people are more patterned into like, well, now I'm into hardcore, and now I'm a punk, and now I'm this, and people get into these more like, and I did it all. You know what I mean? Like I did, now I'm dressing this total, like all punk mohawk and spikes and boots and everything, and now I'm the hardcore. Now I wear like baggy jeans and skate sneakers and huge t-shirts. I went through phases or whatever. Everybody's in 20s. By the time you're a little older, it's like there's too much out there. Why would you ever want to limit yourself in any one way? Just listening to something and whatever. So yeah, it's too boring to like. I would go nuts listening to only death metal.
I think also I listen to a lot of things because I don't know. I think growing up in the 90s, I think the 90s was a time where like everything, like sometimes you would get number one week would be Madonna, then number one the next week would be Nirvana, then you had like number one like a ska band, or you had like a mambo. Like the 90s was I think it was a generation that like the charts were unpredictable. You could have like anything new every time different. Now it's what's going to be number one. It's the same things number one now. But back in the 90s, you could have like a Metallica could be number one. Then 2 weeks later, you would have like a rap artist number one. I like the diversity of the 90s.
The 90s to me, I probably still listen to more music from the 90s than any other time as well. I was born like 78, so the 80s, of course, a lot of my favorite bands are from the 80s. A lot of stuff I grew up on, my parents, is from the 70s. But yeah, when you hit your teens in the 90s and all that stuff's going on, it's like, and not to mention all the number ones and the big diversity that you're talking about, and the genres that came out of nowhere. But that's when everybody, like our age got in, you got into punk, you got into industrial, you got into all these other things. So in the same week, you get into like Minor Threat and Ministry and Primus, you know what I mean? Like you were getting into stuff before it was even that big. You get into, you listen to the Misfits, and all of a sudden a week later I'd have like 8 new punk rock records or whatever. There was just such a wide, just unreal amount of new music to get into in the 90s. And all the metallic hardcore labels, all the best stuff came out then. Like a lot of the best punk came out in the 90s. It depends on what kind of punk you're into, but I mean it's all over the place. It was such a huge diverse era. And I also listened to more things that came out in like 93 to like 98 than anything.
It happens. But yeah, there's lots of cool stuff now too. So I know the album, people can listen to it digitally and they can buy it on Bandcamp or different website. For now, it's digitally, but do you have plans to release this as a physical format sometime in the future?
Maybe, maybe not. I have there's certain titles that I do short runs of cassettes or CDs or something with. A lot of times it'll be if I do a collaborative. I do a lot of collaborative records where instead of just a grid failure title with like a bunch of guests contributing to it, I've done full collaborative records with Prangel from Scram we talked to a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I've done I did a split with him, and we're working on some collaborative stuff. I've done a collaboration with I've done a couple with Matt Gallahan. We did a full collaborative record. Megalophobe, Ben and I have done 3 fully collaborative records together, and we're working on our 4th. And a lot of that stuff comes out on Nefarious Industries, who always does some kind of physical version. Usually it'll be, maybe 100 cassettes or something just to have something out there. And anybody who's going to listen to this kind of stuff is going to be fine, buying a tape or just digital anyways. I don't, vinyl's my I don't need to see behind, like, it's my vinyl collection. Like, vinyl's my favorite thing. I buy more vinyl than anything, but it's expensive as hell. And
I know.
I don't have a sales base to warrant me dropping $3,000 for a bunch of records I'm just going to have sitting over here making forts out of them for like a decade. It's if I had a fan base, I'd be making vinyl and everything. This one will probably stay digital. Who knows, maybe some way down the road. But yeah, I don't know. I think I've put out I think there's like 38 titles on my Bandcamp since 2016. It's like I can't afford to make physical versions of all that stuff. Yeah.
You go broke, man. If you put all
I'm already there, so
all that physically. So they, we're almost at the end of the year. So this is the time where I reflect on all the music that I listened to, and of course I'll have my top 25 at the end of the at the end of the year. I'll divide it in a few videos, but what have been your favorite albums of this year so far?
Wow. I haven't I don't envy that year-end list thing. We do it with the ear split, with our ear split company. It turns into year-end list time, and I don't envy the year-end lists at all. I used to do them for when we were at Metal Maniacs. I used to have to do one every year, and it's always the hardest thing to do. I hate them because you're always turning it in, and a day later you're like, shit, I forgot about that one. It's like one of the best things. So wow, I don't know. The new Willhaven record, the Cruelty record, Matt Gallahan's record finally came out this year, which sounds funny because that was recorded since before the pandemic, but I've been working with him since back before that, and we've been sitting on it the whole way through. So yeah, record's 4 years old, and it just came out 2 months ago. That's a weird one. The False Fed record that came out on the Rosis label, Neurat. It's the guys from I think you talked to them. Yeah, the guys
I talked to them.
Roy from Ministry and Jeff from Discharge, the dude Jonathan Parsons, and Stig from it's like Amoebics, it's Discharge, it's all it's like that dark punk thing. That's easily one of my favorite records this year. Most of the stuff that comes out on Neurat ends up being up there in my tops. Wow.
Yeah.
I haven't even thought about this.
Yeah, no,
I don't know. This is so and it's another thing. It's like we're always talking about how there's so much good music out there. I've been retracing things nonstop. So of course you're bombarded with new music, but I'm always digging up old things. This year I bought records from A Tribe Called Quest on vinyl and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I buy a lot of jazz records. You know what I mean?
Oh, of course.
It's so I'm always exploring back as much as I am looking forward or listening. Yeah, that's why these year-end lists are so hard, because I'll get into stuff that came out this year, next year.
Yeah. I usually do on my phone. I put the albums that I like, so I can keep a track and don't forget. But this year I also have my top 10 worst albums of the year.
That's fun. I did the demos.
Well, that's fun, but I may have on that list a band from my home island. And I'm I feel bad to include them on that list, but I can't lie to them.
I know that's what you have to do. That's part of being a journalist. It's you think about that. I used to butcher bands if I really just had something that I had to get off my chest or whatever in Metal Maniacs, and I would get hate mail. I'd get crazy letters from bands, people still writing by hand, you know what I mean, or emails or whatever. People, and I butchered an E-Town Concrete record one time, and then I was at like a hardcore show like a week later, and I was like, I'm gonna get stabbed. Like I'm
Oh,
just gonna get.
I had a funny story for the last Puddle of Mud record. I got an email from their PR like, "Oh, do you want to interview Wes?" And I'm I'm going to review. I was thinking I'm going to review the album, and I'm gonna say it's crap. I'm like, I can't see myself if I interview him. What am I gonna say? Like, dude, your album is atrocious.
I think you should have done it. I think you should have done it, man. You want to get
no.
hits.
Then what happened is I did the album review, but then they put out a statement that he didn't want to tour, or so he wasn't gonna do interviews. I'm like, that would have been fun. Like talking to him, like I would ask him, like, dude, was this like when you recorded this? I'm like, was this the best that you could do?
Maybe he heard your review and just said, I'm not doing any interviews.
Maybe he's like, fuck that guy. I'm not.
He's got you up on a wall somewhere. He's sitting there shaving spears all day with a picture of you up on his wall.
And throwing darts at my face. I mean,
you can only hope.
Yeah, but no. But yeah, it's always, I do the end of year list, but yeah, I always try to, and yeah, to me, I always do. And there's people that do 40 albums. I'm like, 40 albums is too much. I think 25 is a good number because you could divide it in 5 videos. But 40
Decibel does 40. Decibel does 40, but Decibel's like the only remaining like fully metal magazine in the US, and it's the most sought after publication. So 40 makes sense for me for that magazine. But blogs and everything else, and they start counting down from 100 like a month out. It's like,
oh, that's too much.
Give me a break, man. Come on. Like, you got to have some quality control here. I know I liked a lot of music this year too, but to make a best of list of 100 records, like, what's not on?
Yeah, I usually do top 20 or top 25, but I'm like, I'll do top 25. Top 25 is a good number.
It also depends on the staff too. If you have a staff of like 50 writers or something like that versus your own personal blog or whatever, it changes things up too. One person shouldn't have that much to say about themselves.
Yeah, no, I put 25 albums, and I also include top 25 albums because my end of year list, they're not only like metal. I have rock albums, alternative.
Yeah.
So I put everything in one list. I just say my favorite albums. Like, it's not my favorite. There's people that told me, oh, you should do like 20 metal albums, 20 albums. Like, no, I just put the best of the best in one pile.
Yeah, that's also with your split. We work with so many bands and artists and labels throughout the year that as soon as this list season starts, we just go nuts because you'll have magazines like you said, like Cult Nation or somebody will do the top 10 doom records, and then the top 10 doom sludge metal records, and then the top 10 post-atmospheric sludge, right? You know what I mean? They'll do all the little subgenres, everything, and it's really good because when you go to that top 10 metallic beatdown hardcore list or whatever, normally there's 10 records that if you haven't heard them, you're going to check them out if you're into that. But as far as tracking it, promoting it, coming up with all that content, it's grueling. It's like, I don't know, I'd rather just be listening to new records,
Oh yeah, I totally agree. So Dave, it's been great finally meeting you and talking with you about Gridfailure. So people, if you like some industrial, noisy type of music, this Gridfailure, you can put it in. And but I wouldn't recommend to listen to this album if you're like jogging at night and it's like really obscure, because you'll think like someone's after you trying to kill you.
It doesn't need to be dark out. That can happen if you're in the car. You think
that could happen now anytime. Anytime. So people, I'll put the link so people can listen to it digitally and buy it if they want to do so. So until next time, people, this is Hector, the Shield on a Couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you and goodbye.